P4 level, most of those guys run a deficit, right? You know what I'm saying? And so you can't look at it as just whether they are operating in the black or the red. You got to look at the intangible things that an athletic department brings, right? Nowhere else on campus are you going to bring, and I'll just take Prairie View, but you can do this at any school. Nowhere else at Prairie View are they going to bring in 15,000 people, right? There ain't no professor, no lecture, no classroom. There's nothing else but football that's going to bring 15,000 people. And you take that at, say, Northern Illinois, we got a stadium of 35,000. You go to Michigan State, stadium at 85. There's no other events that bring that many people, right? There's no other department that brings the number of eyes to your university. Like, we were able to play on ESPN every single game that we had, especially home games, right? How else do you get that number of people to look at Prairie View, right? They see it, they look at it. Next thing you know, our website starts getting hit. They start learning more about Prairie View, right? Athletics is the front porch to the university, right? Now it could be a detriment too, because you could put a black eye on the university if you do something crazy, right? But it's the one thing that brings the eyes, the traffic. And so you have to look at the intangible things that an athletic department brings, right? It creates school spirit, right? It helps alumni giving back, right? Which when you do your U.S. News World Rankings, alumni giving, alumni get back is part of those rankings. And athletics plays a huge part of that, right? Because athletics brings out the emotion in folks, right? And so, those type of things that people need to look at, you know what I'm saying? If you look on a campus, every campus I've been on, the student athletes graduate at a higher rate than the general student population. The GPA is higher for student athletes than it is for the general student population, right? And so you're talking about bringing great students, you know what I'm saying, to your university because of athletics that wouldn't have come if you didn't have athletics. And so those are the things people need to think about and take in consideration when they talk about the value of an athletic department.
I'm glad you said that, because I believe that the intrinsic value of athletics, a successful athletic department, is actually, what do they say? What's the commercial that says priceless? Like, You can't, to be honest, if you guys win the Celebration Bowl or a national championship at the FCS level, Prairie View doesn't have the budget to afford the kind of exposure that would give it. For that reason, I always think that institutions should fully fund their athletic department, whatever that means, and they shouldn't look for the athletic department to reimburse them for budgetary expenditures. And that's what it seems like they want the athletics to do. They give athletics a $3 million budget, and they use all the revenue generated around athletics to recoup that $3 million. I don't think it should be done that way. I think you guys at Prairie View have the right model, that if the money is generated by athletics, it's best suited that money go back to those student athletes, coaches, and staff that literally generate those opportunities to make money.
Absolutely.
Now, AD Golf, I'm going to hit you with a little bit of a joke, but this is something that I found a little bit of an answer, needs a question to. Now, I have a special person out there, and their mother is class of 1959 at Prairie View A&M University. Proud alumnus, Ann Williams. Now, she has a question she wants to know. She is in the Dallas area, and she's up in age. She supports Prairie View with her money and her time. But she wanted to know, and you talked about, is there any way that game that you play in Dallas against Ground can get back on TV and maybe generate some revenues from a broadcast standpoint? Or that's something that, has that been discussed, as far as, getting that game on TV and maybe getting another revenue stream going?
So with TV, obviously with Al, we'd have to talk with Al about that. I don't see why it couldn't or shouldn't be on TV. It's a great game. It's a classic. What happens is that, with classics, sometimes they don't want to put them on TV because they want to drive the folks to the actual game. But I don't see why it's not on TV or shouldn't be on TV.
Well, I'm just going to tell you. So, as they say, the old heads wanted to know. So, I had to make sure I asked it because one of the things that I know that you're in, and I saw at the press conference with Coach Jackson, and I, seeing something. I think one of the things, and I think you're learning, which because you've been around this, the older alumni who have loved these schools, who have always, they're going to be the ones when you ask for that first dollar, they're going to be the first one to give you that dollar. So those are one of the things that I know that you hear about, the things like the parking and things like that, all those different things that you have to worry about, the little things. I know our AD is like, hey, when we gonna get the bathroom fixed? So all these things that even at a high level, like you're saying, while you're balancing balance sheets, you're trying to make sure there's toilet seats in the bathroom and things like that. So can you talk a little bit, from a more grounded thing, that some of the alumni that you're looking at, that they've kind of say, hey, AD, we're glad you're here. And some of just, smaller things that you say, you know what, Mr. Campbell, this is something I saw that we're going to change and make better. Because I think that's something I've heard that you've been doing too also.
Yeah, so what I try to do is I try to look at everything from the ground up, right? Fan experience is important to me. So I've been working with our police department on campus, with our parking, trying to figure out, when we have these big games, because I expect to have a big crowd, right? And so, figuring out ways to get folks on campus, off campus in a smoother direction, working with our auxiliary services, to make sure we're cutting the lines down when it comes to concessions, being able to, try to go as digital as much so folks can get through the lines. You know what I'm saying? Those type of, like, the game experience is really important to me. We put a survey out there asking for feedback, like any ideas that people have come up. Some people have come up with some great ideas and we've tried to implement them. Some people have come up with some crazy stuff and I have to be like, nah, that's so outside left that I'm not even gonna look at that. But really having some more fan experience. And then pregame, right? For me, like, I want to create a mini homecoming feel every game, right? Homecoming at PV is off the meters, right? Like 60,000 people RVing. I had never seen nothing like that in my life. Now, I hadn't been at some big schools and homecoming big that day, but to start seeing RVs roll in there on a Wednesday and don't roll out until a Sunday was an experience, my first homecoming, right? And so, I know we can't do that every game, but 5 times a year, I feel like we should have something similar, right? That our fans would come up early, and that alleviates some of the traffic. Everybody, if we play at 2:00, everybody can't show up at 1:15, 1:30, right? And expect to just roll in and go to a parking spot, right? Like, so, trying to have that type stuff, man, and listening to the folks. Like, I understand, like, it's frustrating to sit in the line. I get to campus super early, so I never have to deal with that. But, trying to make sure that we're providing a great fan experience as well as a student athlete experience, because having fans in the stands, having students in the stands creates a home field advantage, right? When you have that support as a former student athlete, understand you play a little harder when the stands is packed and the band is playing hard for you and those type of things. And so making sure that we have that for our student athletes is important to me.
AD Goff, as we wrap up, as a PV father, my daughter is a senior at PV, and she'll be graduating next year. And so it's been a great experience for us at Prairie View. And for that reason, I'll always be a supporter and a donor to Prairie View. And I look forward to all that you guys do. It's a top-notch university. You get a top-notch education. And some of the most successful people in Texas and in the country are Prairie View alumni. What can be done to do two things? One, get them to come to home games. 2, and the other thing is to get them to support the athletic programs that's in keeping with the prosperity that they're experiencing in other areas of their career and their life. What can be done to kind of get them more involved, for the lack of a better word?
So I think for us, making sure that we're having those touch points, right? You can never have too many touch points, whether it's social media, whether it's emails, whether it's calls, whether it's hosting events. Like, we've started hosting a lot more events. Like, Houston's a big city, right? And so, putting events in Houston, putting events in the northwest suburbs, what we call the I-99 corridor, going from the Woodlands all the way down to Katy, right? Making sure that we're engaging Waller County, right? Folks out at Waller County. You never want to forget the folks where you're housed at, right? But I think we're going to we're just scratching the surface right now. But I think we're going to continue doing a great job because we are now revamping how we do things, right? We've never had somebody who was a full-time fundraiser just for athletics, right? Designated for we've never had a multimedia rights to, like, I'm amazed that so many of our facilities aren't named after any corporations. Like, we've never done, like, it's still called Panther Stadium. The stadium was built in 2016. Like, I want to go out there and find somebody to put their name on it, right? Which once again generates more revenue, creates a better experience for our student athletes, our fans. And so those are the things that we're looking at doing. And like I said, been here a year and a half. I dream big. I'm trying to do big things, and we're going to get that done. Believe that.
You know, a lot of people will in the SWAC will say it has an unofficial sponsorship or stadium title. It's called, some people would say it's called Mumford West. You know, which is Southern, which is no. I'm just saying. There's some people that would say
always have a train wreck before the end of the show.
No. Some people would say that it's Mumford West, Coach, and we got to get that fixed, Coach. We got to get that fixed.
That's top on the agenda, right? But what I do know, last time I was over there at Southern, we won.
Tell me, Golf.
I mean, I don't know a lot. I don't claim to know a lot, but I know last time I walked up in that stadium, I walked out there with a W.
There you go. That's what I want to hear. Now, Eddie, I got to say one thing. Now, I just got a text. Now, the class of '59 has given you a seal of approval. So that's a big deal. So I'm gonna figure out a way for you to sign a hat for Miss Williams or something like that.
Absolutely.
Because she is watching, and we are happy that she is watching.
Absolutely.
And she is super excited that you're there, AD. So AD, we really appreciate you being on, and
I appreciate
look forward to you to talk about the championships that you will be playing FAMU against. You know what I mean? Bring you back on and talk about that. And once again, one thing before we go, tell everybody how they can get the tickets and how they can donate money. We'll close it out like that.
Yeah. So pvpanthers.com, right? You go on there, you can buy your tickets, you can hit the donate button, you can give to whether it's the Football Excellence Fund, the AD account, or any other sport that we have of our 18 sports, right? Give, buy. Come out to the Panther Stadium, come out to the Baby Dome, and make sure you support the Panthers.
There it is. AD Golf.
I'll share the screen right quick. AD Golf, if you don't mind, with you here. And it looks like, looks like it's pretty simple. We got tickets right here.
Yep.
We got the 35 for 35 banner up. Yep. Looks like it's pretty easy, AD Golf. There's no excuse. And you got the donate button right there. You got the school store. Like, we just redid this whole website because I wanted to make it easier for people to find things and for people to give. Absolutely. Hey, AD, I want to personally thank you for coming on, man. Like I say, during the hiring process of Coach Jackson, you were such a nice man. When I would send you an email, you would return my calls and tell me absolutely nothing. But I appreciated the phone call and you being upfront. And you wasn't shifting the responsibility to anybody. You said you were the guy that was gonna make the call. When it was time, you were gonna make the decision. And I'm happy that you made what I would consider the best hire of this hiring cycle, in my opinion.
I appreciate you, man.
All right, thanks, Coach. All right, Mr. Campbell. That was a tremendous interview right there. I don't know why it's a train wreck, because you know those Southern guys. I'm surprised Adrian Crook ain't in here today. He would have appreciated that comment, calling it, you know, because he always refers to it as Mumford West.
Well, see, this is the thing about it. See, we invite people in our house, and then every once in a while, you got to kick them out without a drink You know, nothing to eat or anything like that. See, and we want people to come back to this house and see every time you got to start. And see, the thing about you, see, you start trouble and you're not part of none of these fan bases. See, you just chucking grenades and then you can walk out the door. You see what I'm saying? We got my PV folks all in here representing, and then you're going to chuck a grenade and then you're going to keep walking. See, we can't have that, man. We can't.
For sure, for sure. But we have, hey, man, this is a great show. We had AD Goff on. He gave us a lot of great content. I also would like to have him on at some point before the season starts, man, so that we can, so he can let us know what we can expect this upcoming season. Looks like they have a lot of things in motion over there at Prairie View, and looks like they'll have some things solidified this summer. And I look forward to hearing about everything that's going to be going on and this upcoming season. But with no further ado, I'm gonna have to drop you off of this live because we have a FAMU person we're bringing up, Mr. Campbell. At this time, you can go ahead and disconnect.
No, see, there you go. There you'll start in trouble. Listen, one of the things that we like to do here on HBCU Coach, because we talk a lot about what the alumni do. We talked about the street committee, but one of the things I wanted to do, and I'm super excited to bring on the next part, to really talk about how the Alumni Association and athletics intertwine and how they work together. So I am super excited to bring on Florida A&M's NAA president, Curtis Johnson.
Hey.
Hey,
Wow. I can't believe I'm still up this time of night, my brother.
Listen, man, Curtis, we knew it was late, but see, wait, man, we got to have to close out the show. You know what I mean? Close out the show.
Let's put it like this. It's Tuesday night. I'm in Tallahassee. Now, if it's Wednesday night, I'll be heading over to Top Flight for some chicken wings.
Now, Rocky, now listen, I'm going to set this up because let me tell you something. I've known Curtis for a long time. We went to school together. Curtis is one of those people. See, this is what's so great about this, and we're going to talk about this. When you have people on campus and they superstars and they always doing the right thing, and, people look up to them and stuff like this. Curtis is one of them people. Right. And then the boy that grown up, and now he's the alumni president leading us and things like that. So, Curtis, I'm super excited. I'm super proud of you. But one of the things, and I want to start this off because I think this is so important. As you said, sports and alumni, of course, intersect. There is no sports without alumni participation, being in the stands, financing, and things like that. So I want to start with this, and then we're going to go back to the overall point of view. Now, Rock, I know you remember this. We had just come off of Celebration Bowl, HBCU National Championship. I got the word that our coach potentially was going to leave. And this man put out the call to all the alumni, and in 48 hours, raised over $150,000 plus. And Curtis, I could be wrong, but this was because I'm part of some of the DSOs that there were commitments to up to $500,000 of $25,000. Can you walk us through how that you galvanized the rallies to raise that, and how that process worked with your communication with the AD to get that going?
Yeah, well, hey, it was. I recall it vividly, man. We were doing it. It was during the Christmas holiday season, making it more important, right? We had just come off this Celebration Bowl victory, and we were. The word started to get out that Coach Simmons at that point was not re-signed, and that we needed to really kind of figure out what we needed to do and to keep this train together, keep all the passengers and coaches on that train, and set up for the repeat. And so, Rattler Nation started as we usually do. People started having conversation. Phones started ringing. Social media started buzzing. People called me. The AD called. I said, okay, well, what's the number? And she made a call to all of the direct support organizations, to include the National Alumni Association, the Boosters, F Club, 220 Club, Rattlers Alone, certain fraternities, sororities. We all came together in our unique way to say, how do we put forth this genuine effort to make sure she has the funds to keep our coach at that point. And we went to work. We went to work in a monumental way. The Alumni Association has always and will always support athletics, particularly football, but we support all athletics. And we really take our cue from the actual Rattler boosters. They are the official direct support organization of all sports, right? So it's not just football, it's baseball, volleyball, everything we do, all 13, 14 athletic programs. And so we usually defer to them. And I usually defer to my NAA members. Hey, if you really are into sports, you also have to be a member of the Rattler Boosters, because they directly, all of those funds go to the sports program. We take on not only sports, we have scholarships. We help to recruit students to FAMU. We help to keep students in school when they need a little change. They run into a little deficit, and to keep them on track. And then, of course, we connect those students when they graduate to alumni chapters across the United States. So that's kind of our role. But Steve, like I said, the call went out. We raised these monies, and to this date, we weren't successful in retaining Coach at that point, but we got our next coach hired, which is Coach Cozy. And what we were able to do is take those funds and put them into something that helped plug a gap. And as I listened to the previous guest you had on, we had gaps. We had things that we needed a fund to support the coach and his staff. What we were finding is that the football staff, if they had to fund bonuses, to fund the things that he needed to help his staff to do and recruit staff to work with him, we were able to fill that gap, and we still have those funds to this day. Every now and then I'll get an email from Coach Cozy saying, hey, we just won this bowl, or we've accomplished this, and here's a level of bonus that I need to pay out. And I go to my board, I present that information to the board, and we move those funds to his account so that he can compensate his assistant football coaches and staff.
Curtis, I wanted to ask you something, because you talked about this mass amount of money being raised, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things, and we keep it real here, you know, one of the things that people are always leery of, where's the money going? Where did the money go? Is it sitting in the cash? Can you really talk about the checks and balances, how the alumni, when you're donating money like that, and why we can feel comfortable? And and this goes for a lot of alumni associations do the same thing, but kind of talk about that process, because what we have is a fear of a lot of people scared to give money. You know, what they're going to do with the money, who's getting the money, somebody's buying a car with it. So kind of talk a little bit about that process and how that works, and that the money is still there and like you say, and being utilized.
Absolutely. So all of these funds, we have specific designated accounts in the FAMU Foundation, right? So we take those monies and we put them in these, what we call restricted accounts. And so those funds are not commingled with any of the operational account monies that I need to run the National Alumni Association. So we have a specific account, what we call the Football Coaches Compensation Account. And we have a specific number. So even if somebody wanted to give a gift to that account, it will go directly there. That those funds are there. And the only way those funds are dispersed is it's triggered from Coach Cozy. So he'll send a request to our AD. She's copied on the email. It comes to me. And then I take that request to the board, the National Alumni Board. And so they see it, and they see the request, and this is how much money, this is the balance in the account. And after we make this money, this is what's left, right? And so everything is above board. We turn it over to Coach Cozy, and Coach Cozy then will take it in his account and disperse it to his respective coaches that, you know, deserved or won the actual financial contribution that he's seeking. We have nothing to do with it. We're simply we receive the money and we disperse the money where it's supposed to go. And we have a very strict accounting of that. We have to fill out these forms, and it's all on file. And so it's all there.
Let me ask you this, Curtis. And I want to say, when I had the opportunity to visit FAMU, when you guys played for a SWAC championship, you and your alumni, I was able to attend one of your functions with Mr. Campbell there, and your alumni was gracious, and it was a very delightful event that evening. So I want to thank you for that, because I felt like part of the family just for a day.
Yes. Come on back anytime. Come on back anytime.
So, but what I wanted to ask you, and I'm asking as an outside person. You guys, through the hiring of Coach Cozy, there were some things revealed about FAMU we got to see how the sausage is made, so to speak, because of that process. And everybody we got to see everybody's kind of role in the process. And I just want to ask you, being that you are president of the NAA and you've been part of several processes, is it usually as clunky as it was during that process to get the business done? Or was it especially, I guess, clunky just because of it was around football and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I wouldn't say. I think at that point, the culture at FAMU was at a point where we had an AD who had come to us and hired, and so it was the first process that she was bringing through with the hiring of a new football coach. And so when you have a new AD at that point, and you have all of this historic culture of way things have kind of been, you kind of have to really know how to massage and do that dance. And so there were a number of people that was really trying to rally around the AD to support, to say, hey, we have some norms, we have some traditions. And sometimes, the Rattler Nation, that we're very strong about some of our traditions. And sometimes it does feel that way, but you have to also embrace it, because those are the same people you're going to go back to say, hey, I need money. I need to raise money. I'm going up on ticket prices. I'm doing all this stuff. And those are the people that's going to carry that water and make sure that things are smoothed over. And so I think as we work through that process, unfortunately, it all played out for the public. We tend to kind of do that here. It made, I think, for a better process. I think ultimately people had a sense of buy-in. And I think that, one of the things that I always have to respect about FAMU, we are that type of institution that, we're FAMU. We have some disagreements with the family. We rally, but when we come out as FAMU. And we're coming against everybody else that's coming against FAMU at that point. But we do have a few dust-ups every now and then. But I think it makes us stronger. I think that as we are growing and we are building that and have that appreciation for our culture, there are going to be some more fights that's going to come, and they're going to be much bigger than football. And it's going to be important that we have Rattler Nation galvanized to take on those challenges that we're facing, not only in the state of Florida, but on a national level as well.
I was also, very impressed. You guys have some very esteemed alumni that was a part of the process.
Yeah.
And what we witnessed was being part of the FAMU family is something that everybody in that process takes very serious, meaning that it almost got personal at one point during the process. And I was just wondering, how does a institution, because my daughter she'll be graduating from Prairie View soon.
Yeah.
Prairie View alumni is not that connected the way that FAMU's, and they don't take things personal that happen on the Hill the way it seems like the people at FAMU took things personal about what was happening on the highest of Seven Hills. How do y'all keep, what I'm asking here is, what is your role in keeping y'all so connected and so involved in what's going on FAMU campus, even after you graduate and move on or whatever? It seems like there's lots of people connected and involved in what's going on and have a vested interest in how things turn out.
FAMU is a very special place, man. People have joked to say, "Oh, it's a cult." And sometimes I tend to agree, right? We have dust-ups. But we know how to come together, and I think you saw that, right, when you came here. Those same people that will challenge you and may rearrange a few alphabets in their strong conversation with you are the same people that will invite you to the tailgate, have your cocktail, and share food, and you get over it, right? I think one thing about Rattlers is you have to have tough skin. And from day one, and Steve, you talked about this, we just have this thing that we put you in this system here, and it just naturally produces diamonds. And literally, it's built to pressure test, and people succeed at it. And because of that, they have an affinity and love. And don't get me wrong, they're very opinionated, very strong about some things. Sometimes we air all of our information out on social media, and sometimes it's not accurate, right? But it's for the love of FAMU. Those people still have a love of FAMU, and sometimes we have to try to get it right to help them understand that there's another way to do this. And then more importantly, let's be factual. Let's get the right information if you're really going to go out there and put it out there, so that you at least don't come off not being fully informed. And sometimes we tend to do that. And one thing I can tell you, and this is a word of warning to you, Rocky, don't get in the middle of this FAMU dust up, right? We're gonna go at each other, right? And Steve and I may go at each other, but don't you come in there messing with us, because both of us gonna turn on you, and then it's gonna be on, right? You're gonna get bit everywhere by rattlers at that point. So
Curtis,
stay out of it. Leave it alone.
Been several times by these rattlers. We try to tell them,
yeah,
which leads into something about your position. Now,
yes.
one of the things about you were on, as they say, the hiring panel and things
yes.
like that. And I'm pretty sure if there are other coaches, well, you being the alumni president, now we know what the 80 is looking for, and we'll know what some of the other. You as being alumni president, when you put on this panel, what is your charge, and what are you looking as far as you're representing the alumni, as far as giving your input on the hire?
So I'm listening to alums, right? So I'm in these groups. I'm listening. I'm fielding phone calls. I'm making observations, because you're around the program. You kind of hear things. You kind of know kind of what is characteristics that you're looking for, right, to be able to walk into. And then that's always a very strong thing, because you're walking into a very strong culture, very strong. And you've got seasoned rattlers, you've got young rattlers, you've got very wealthy and very well-known rattlers, and you've got rattlers that just don't care and will hang out there and put it all out there, right? And so that's difficult for some people. And when you know that, you're looking for certain things in these processes to kind of see, and you're doing your background work to kind of understand the type of people, because you're going to be put into a pressurized system, and you've got to be able to make sure that person can really stand that, and you have to support them. But I'm listening to Rattler Nation. I'm listening, doing my homework, and I'm trying to see what's the right fit for what we're trying to do. So
I want to address something that I said earlier. It says Rocky, I'm lost. That's a shot. What I mean by Prairie View alumni is connected. My daughter is attending school. Just about everybody in my community here in Waco knows she's attending and has supported her and encouraged her in some form or fashion. Individually, they are connected. I'm talking about the business on campus is what I'm talking about. How I don't see the Prairie View alumni being connected in that way. Because you guys are certainly connected as a community, but y'all also are concerned about the business that's going on campus as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at all levels. So, right now, we are searching for the next university president, right? And I'm on that search committee as well, representing alums. And so we just had a meeting here on Monday, and we had a lot of great applicants, and we kind of whittled that down here. But people are connected. They're talking. They're sharing information. They're concerned. And then they're concerned about what happens day in and day out on that campus, right? If customer service is one of the big things I hear a lot of from alums, right? I get those calls. Hey, my daughter, my son applied, and they have this, they have that, and I feel those questions, right? And they reach out to me, and some of them feel connected, and I triage them to the right area and get them right information, and that's a part that we play as alums to be that communication source back to it. We try not to get in it because they have their rules, but we try to at least get information back to the presidents and region vice presidents so they can inform. But we do stay involved. That's one of the things that I got to just share this about why we need to continue to protect National Alumni Associations, especially FAMU, because, we're in the state of Florida. And what I do know about the Alumni Association here is that, you see some things, but there are a lot of things that don't get recognized that this alumni association would do. I'm talking about the recruitment of students, because some of these kids never heard of FAMU until people in that community, a guidance counselor, retired teacher or somebody brings up FAMU to these kids, and they bring them to this campus and they see all of these beautiful people walking around and having great educational experience. But they also don't see these chapters that put together these send-off parties when they get these kids together after they've been accepted, and they wrap their arms around them and they say, okay, you're going into the nursing program. We've got alums that know the dean of nursing or came out of that program. So you call me if you got challenges or you need extra help. And not only is that, but they gather materials and supplies and they send these kids to FAMU. And then these chapter presidents are checking in with these kids, and they come home, they have their respective zip code parties, area code parties. We call them 772 or 850 or whatever those area codes are. And they get these kids together for the holidays, say, how did it go? What do you need? Those are wraparound support services that this alumni and many alumni associations pay. And that's why it's important and why I fight so hard to make sure we maintain this status, because those are things that other PWIs are not doing to support these students. And it makes a difference, right? When these kids have a deficit of $500 or $350 and they can't register because of that, well, that's when alumni step in and make sure that these kids graduate on time, that they keep matriculating through FAMU and just don't drop out, because that actually penalizes and hurts FAMU, because unlike any other the HBCUs that you have on their background, we are a state performance-based system. So we have to measure up. We have to hit certain milestones to receive funding. Some of those institutions behind you are state funded. They just get funds from the state and they have it. Well, they put some criteria and some benchmarks on how you're going to get money here in the state of Florida. And guess what? It's not just FAMU in there. We're competing against University of Florida, South Florida, Central Florida, all of the other public institutions. And we're expected to hit those same marks. There's no excuses, right? So we need those wraparound services to make sure our kids are nurtured and our kids are supported and need that. And so that's the importance of the Alumni Association, and why we work so hard and why we're so passionate and stay so involved with these kids from day one.
Now, Curtis, I know one of your major initiatives is growing the Alumni Association.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I found interesting, and we're talking about this using an athletic lens. One of the things I saw, and I know you saw this, and maybe you can talk a little bit about it, that our Alumni Association partnered with Alabama State's Alumni Association in Dayton, Ohio, to, as you say, that care package to send that team. How do the different alumni association, because we all, even though we compete on the field, we all family. So do the alumni association, when we get together on athletic events, you meet the alumni association president, we'll work together to have a great game day experience, or things like that where we can support each other if we've got a school in town, for whatever reason. So that's something that that you have knowledge of. That's something that you encourage the alumni chapters to do, and also by getting more alumni, we could do more things like that. Absolutely.
So one of the things that we do, there is a network of alumni NAA presidents, right? So I've been on with most of the alumni presidents in the background there, and we have a network. We talk, we support each other. We ultimately all have the same challenges, believe it or not. It doesn't matter if you're in Alabama or you're in Florida, it's still the same, right? And it's all about how do we get more of our actual graduate alums to be active members of these associations, right? So we have to overcome perceptions, things that happen to them, and building that value of why they need to become a member of the Alumni Association. It's not too difficult to recruit them back for homecoming and they have a great experience, but it's beyond that, right? We want you to have a great experience, but there's a part that you contribute to that will be cemented in legacy that will allow for you to support the people coming after you. And that's where we have to really kind of shift that understanding to say, hey guys, have a great time at homecoming, but also make some of that money. Let's peel back some of that money you out there having a great time with and spending out there, turn it up. Just take 100. That's all. It won't stop the party. Trust me, it's still enough to go around. But take 100 and invest in your membership. Get your membership or get your life membership, because those funds, particularly with us, they're restricted. When I've gone on to the great gates beyond, that money is still going to be here, spending off interest, supporting kids at Florida A&M. And I'd rather have it that way. If I've got to miss a party to do that and get my life membership, which I've done, many years ago, that's what it should really be about. And so, but yeah, we do, Steve. We do network when we do go to visit other schools. There's a camaraderie there. We do meet with those other presidents. They do host us. We do have conversations, and we all kind of work together.
Now, I'm gonna say, Rocky, I gotta set one thing, and I think Curtis understands it. The reason why people know our business because we have something called the Sunshine Law in the state of Florida. So there's nothing that we can hide, and Curtis can talk a little bit about that. When he has official meetings and things like that, that's on record in the state of Florida. So that's why, Rocky, why you say you might think we're in it is because people see it. A lot of states do not have these same laws that we are held against, and I think that also shows that we're not afraid, as they say, to make the sausage made. Because, Curtis, I will tell you this channel, we show a lot of things about how FAMU is run. But I tell you what, we got a lot of respect because a lot of people saw that we were not afraid to have difficult conversations in public.
Right. Yeah, no, we have to operate in the sunshine here. So our meetings are public. We have to public notice them. We allow public comment. There's certain records that we have Freedom of Information Act that they can request, but there are some records that are not subject to FOIA. So, I mean, we have this stuff that we have to put out there, and we're happy to have the conversation with people, with alums, and, some accept it, some don't, right? But it is what it is, but we do have to operate, and we do operate in the sunshine.
I just want to ask you a question. As a alumni, and you've addressed some of this, but what are some of the challenges of fundraising at a HBCU, within the HBCU Alumni Association? Because to be perfectly honest, resources are always a topic of conversation when it comes to HBCUs. And so how is it particularly challenging or beneficial or whatever the situation and circumstance is around HBCUs? Why does resources always a topic of conversation? And then how important it is, how does the alumni chapters factor into that?
So I think that's a great question. I've been thinking about that a lot, and I'm gonna try to paint a picture that will help. One of the challenges I think we as HBCUs have that I don't know, and it still may exist at other PWIs, but we have so many schools, so many programs, so many organizations that have need at HBCUs. And unfortunately, everybody is asking probably some of the same people over and over and over, right? And so what we've got to try to do is cast a little wider net to spread that ask about, right? So I'll give you an example. We have a great band here, right? And so the band has a really big need when you move that amount of people to football games. So the people that obviously played in the band that's their thing, right? I mean, they want to make sure that band is supported and they want people to, but we also have sports, right? All of these different sports. We got basketball, baseball, volleyball, everybody, right? That has a need. And literally when our teams travel, and I'm not talking about the big revenue, I'm talking about the small revenue sports, the tennis, the swimming, the track, the baseball, softball, they travel. Alums are meeting them there with care packages, right? So again, you're asking those people that's contributing over, and so you have that, and then now you have the National Alumni Association, right? We're asking because we have to support these kids academically through FAMU. You've got the boosters asking, right? Because they got all of these sports that they got to do, and so somehow we've got to really figure this thing out. And I was really on earlier listening to your prior guest and how they begin to align their advancement department. And you're going to probably see a lot more of that from our thing. We're having these conversations now. It's kind of funny. I think it's spreading around all HBCUs. We've got to figure this out. We've got to figure out a universal ask that will support all of the programs. And then we got to get to more people. We've got to expand our communication and our touch point beyond those really super committed rattlers, right? And I'll say this, so here, I'm always trying to be very transparent. We've got over 80,000 plus graduates at FAMU. Now, of course, people, deceased, etc. But if you just look at the records, 80,000 plus. I've got about 5,000 that are active paid members of the National Alumni Association. 5,000. When I came in 3 years ago, I set a goal that we needed to get to 10,000 paid members, because that 10,000 is not only financially, but it's an advocacy group that when people say you got 10,000 people, they pay attention. That the 10,000 can shift a lot of things, especially in the state of Florida, right? Mm-hmm. So those are things that I think about because I'm involved in a lot of things in the state of Florida, is that, okay, I got to get this group to 10,000. So now I got to build my infrastructure to handle that. Well, we are a 501c3, all 100% volunteer organization. My infrastructure can't handle that. We can barely handle 5,000. So again, the need is there. So what I'm trying to really say to you is that your previous guests, and you're hearing here again, we've got to align some of these different departments. We got to start talking to each other. And then we got to be able to communicate that back out to, in this case, Rattler Nation, to say, hey guys, yeah, you come in, you're saying you're a graduate, and you are, but you're not really contributing to the point that we need you to contribute, because we need a lot of people to do a little.
I live here in Waco, Texas, and there's a Power 5 school here, Baylor University. Mm-hmm. And they have what you would call an entire fundraising department, where they have personnel within that department that just work on capital campaigns that have to do with athletics. Then they have capital campaigns to have to do with things that are happening on campus.
Right.
Does FAMU have that same infrastructure, and can you guys use any of that infrastructure to bolster the Alumni Association?
So Rock, we are building to that, right? So the conversation has been had. We have carved out. We have found funding to bring on some of that. It's literally kind of deja vu to hear the previous guests talk about that. We are literally doing that now. We've just brought on a new advancement person, Dr. Tony Neal, who's there now. And so I think what happens, we probably all go to the same meetings and network in the same thing. And we literally take ideas from other HBCUs and other schools. So it's funny you should say that. We are having those conversations now. I know the foundation is done a study. We're looking at a capital campaign, right? So we're in that phase where we are in the background, really doing our research to see if can be supported. And I think those are the conversations that I know we're having, because I'm also on the foundation board. So as a part of that stuff's happening now, and we are looking at that. We have a position right now where we're looking for a person dedicated to athletics, particularly football. That would be a fundraiser, right? And so we've just got to find the right person to do that, to get out there and care for that.
Oh, that's awesome. Because I think those alumni associations for those schools kind of use those fundraising departments to supplement support and infrastructure. You know what I mean? Meaning that you get to use paid staff to make contact with alumni associations, where even Letterman's clubs and things of that nature, to continue with those relationships and cultivate those relationships. One of the things that I've come to understand about just fundraising in general is that to cultivate new fundraisers, new givers, mm-hmm. it's often cheaper, rather than go after the new givers, to just press on with the people you have and just ask those people to give more. Yeah. Now, that's not fair in my opinion, to the people who are already generous givers. Right. But when you're trying to be efficient as an organization, right, yeah. it's better to put your resources and your time in places where you know that there's infertile ground, right. rather than invest in things that you hope sprout at some point. So how do you balance that as a fundraiser?
And I'm going to say you have to have a balance, right? Because what I've noticed here, right, a lot of our seasoned rattlers have been carrying this water for a long time, and things are getting a little more expensive for them. and they're living on fixed incomes, right? And so it's always a concern that when you're not putting more water into the bucket, knowing that water is coming out the bucket, you're going to actually have an empty bucket at some point. So we've got to find ways and pathways and alumni associations that not only, really support, but we've got to reach and get some of these younger people and bring them aboard. And there's, with technology, I think there are easier ways and less expensive ways to do that than in the past, right? Because in the past, it was, you had a lot of physical labor, calling, touching, and you got to pay a lot of people. With some of this technology now, I think if we really did it right, and we're probably a little more with it ingrained, I think we may get a few more in that bucket early on, because technology is proven, right? I see it all the time. People get out here and I've seen it with Rattlers. We make stuff go viral and buy it all, right? I mean, we're selling shoes, we'll sell fans, we'll sell a certain particular gear that they see. Technology does that. If we just got to find a way to turn it on so that it supports our university.
I have to ask this question, Curtis.
Yeah.
Ask
what you want to ask.
And this question, when you first heard the idea that FAMU was going to receive a $237 million donation, what was your initial thought? Now, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole with you, because we know how it all turned out. But I know another smart rattler who was skeptical from the word go. And I just wanted to know, were you also skeptical? And you're in the in crowd. So I just want to know your original thoughts.
I'm going to be honest. I'm in the in crowd. I was sitting on the stage right next to the person. That was during graduation. I spent quite a bit of time with this person that weekend, because we had, I think 2 or 3 graduations that weekend, and met him that Friday night and Saturday, and all of this stuff culminated. It was a surreal moment is all I can say. There was a part that had some elation, and there was a part that, because I was there and I was in such proximity, I've been around a little while, right? I've been in corporate America for some times, and I've been at a very high level in some very high level rooms. There was some amount of skepticism because it wasn't matching up, right? I've been around some very wealthy people, and I've seen how they move. And, I guess at one point I was just trying to be hopeful and optimistic that it would work, and trusting in the system, that all of the proper vetting had been done. And I think as we've begun to unfold that and unpack that, there were probably some things that maybe didn't get the amount of attention that it should have gotten. And so that's where we are. But I can tell you, Rock, I was there. I can't deny that. There are pictures. I'm literally sitting right next to that situation on stage. And so it was something that we've turned the corner. We are moving forward. We have recovered from that. And the better days of FAMU and raising money for FAMU is ahead of us. So
okay. I just have to address this.
Okay.
So the guy thinks I'm trolling and trying to be messy. What I'm simply saying is, I asked the question for this reason, Curtis. As I've gotten to know the FAMU alumni, y'all are some of the most brilliant people in the state of Florida. I'll put that. And there's no way, in my opinion, that it makes sense that it got as far as it did with the people that y'all have it at y'all disposal from just a knowledge and experience standpoint. Just looking at the people who are on the board. You know what I mean?
Well, Kurt, let me answer that. I'm gonna answer that for you. So, Rocky, here's the answer. And I think
I'm not trying to be messy or anything.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. I'm gonna answer that because I can answer this better because I'm part of the street committee. There are people that are placed that have jobs that they do. Curtis' job is to be an alumni association, like he said. What I'd rather ask him about is, Curtis, this, because we, like you said, we moved on. This is 2025. How about we talk about the real money that you actually have raised and supported families? We ain't gonna talk about the money that we don't know about. Curtis, I'm gonna move this conversation actually. So Curtis, one of the things I want to talk about is that I see that the athletic teams, the football team, baseball. They're creating their own alumni organizations and things like that. So let's talk about how you're working with them to each one of those programs to build that, and also let's talk about actually monies that have actually been raised to support. And I think one of the things that we did do is you talk about scholarships to keep students. I think $150,000 of scholarships that were given out just recently. Let's kind of talk about that.
Yeah. Rock, I appreciate you, brother, but we have learned that we're resilient. Okay, we have turned that corner. And there's no doubt in my mind that there will be Rattlers that will attest and step up to the great fundraising capabilities and exceed that. Okay, so that's what I believe and know about Rattler Nation. Steve, the question, we've done something to expand our National Alumni Association by having what we call affinity groups, right? And so affinity groups is a group of people that have an affinity. We've got former football players, baseball. We have a baseball affinity group. We have a nursing group. I think that we're trying to bring on, like, the law school wants their group. Guess what, Steve? The School of Business is pretty close, right? Bringing on their affinity group. So what we've found is that through schools, through different programming, people have that like-minded and likeness. And so they're forming their own alumni group. So it allows for them to control their scholarships to their respective affinity. And we've seen great success with that. And that's allowed for us to expand our membership and gather more interest in that. The traditional model is, hey, you have a city or a state or an area where they have a particular chapter. And some of our alums, they work all over the United States, and they may be in a certain place that they don't have a chapter. But hey, I played football, so I can go on my affinity group, and things like this platform and virtual platforms will allow them to be participants. And so they gravitate back to that. And that's how they give their monies, they have their fundraisers, and then they award their scholarships to their respective, affinity and how they want to do that. So it's been tremendous. We've got softball, baseball has been very, very popular with their affinity groups. So, the NAA, we have a couple scholarships that we fund. We have a national scholarship that we award all students at FAMU. They have to apply, etc. And we have what we call a Save Our Students, which is an emergency fund, right? So when Dr. Hudson gets that call from a student to say, hey, I need, a small amount of money to be able to stay here because I don't have it and I needed to register, we work with him, in making sure those students stay on track.
Now, Curtis, one of the things I also want to talk about, because the alumni association, we have athletes. And people know, our athletes, again, majority, and this is any athlete, Power 5, Florida State, are not going to go pro. How does the Alumni Association work with our athletes for as serving them? Hey, we got, like you said it best. We got a football player, basketball player that's graduated, and we connect them with older alums as far as job opportunities and things like that.
Yeah. So that's one of the things too that we're growing with our National Alumni Associations. We have a convention every year right now. We're going to be out in the Texas area market this year at the end of May 29th to June 1st. And we bring the whole operation of the NAA. That's where we actually do our annual operation. So we've got our budget, we have our business meetings, we have galas where we raise money. We have our big day of fundraising that week. But yet we also are doing more to professionally develop our alums. And so we partnered with corporations. Just last year alone at our convention, we raised over $250,000 from some of our corporate partners.
See, that's right. That's real money. That's real money right there.
Real money that we raised in corporate partnership that allowed for us to put on our convention. And then they came in and they were partnering with chapters and saying, hey, we're looking for this type of student. We're looking for this type of alum that may be looking for a career.
My name is James Jr., and I want $500 on the lunch money for keeping up with the Jonas Bracket Challenge.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.